From the Workers' Credit Union studio at FATV, welcome to the debate with the candidates for Ward 1 City Council in Leominster. We also welcome our viewers from Leominster TV and WLPZ FM in Leominster, and we welcome our candidates, Bill Brady and Michael Stassen. Thank you for coming tonight.
Welcome.
First issue, for the past several years, several city councilors have voted against the mayor's annual budget, with their issue being their belief that the schools were underfunded in these budgets. If you were on the city council, how would you have voted on these budgets? And what is your feeling on school funding and how it's been funded in recent years? Start with Mr. Stassen.
All right. I think it's clearly true that the schools are underfunded. I believe that that is partly the state's fault. The formula is not working well for Leominster. But I also think that as a city, we should do our best to step up to remediate the failure of the state to do what they should. I also, as far as the vote is concerned, we as the city councilors in Leominster have the power to amend the budget according to the Leominster Charter. So if it were me and I was looking at one of the budgets we've seen the last few years, I would start by making a motion to amend the budget and see how that went. After that, it becomes difficult because, of course, if it really is simply a yes or no vote, there are consequences of voting no that are problematic for the city. So it becomes a difficult decision. So, I mean, I would have to weigh exactly how underfunded I thought the school was versus those consequences.
Thank you. Mr. Brady.
And when it comes to school funding, we all know that there's a formula used and the state requires so much spending. The net spending is kind of aiming at a moving target. Because you said Chapter 70, you know how messed up that is from the state. We're a gateway city in Leominster, right? So we should be getting more funds. Cities that are a little more affluent, say Newton, they're funding their high school with a swimming pool. They're paying out of pocket.
Yeah.
Leominster can't do that.
Right.
The school, absolutely. I'm a 15-year veteran of working vocational high schools, 10 years at Worcester Tech, 4 years at Monty Tech. Love teaching, understand the need for money in education, and I think the school department does a great job in Leominster. It's just how much of the pie, you know, if we take it and give it to the schools, where are we taking it from? Do we want to take it from the fire? Do we want to take it from police? It's not like that we have that much discretion on the city council. As far as the city charter, to amend it, it's an up or down vote. You either vote for it or you don't. We can accept the mayor, it's a strong mayor's form of government in Leominster, so if we can't get to the mayor to put this in before it comes, we can say yes or no. And then what do? Do you pass a 1/12 budget so the city doesn't shut down? You're absolutely right there. It's a difficult decision. And I feel for some of the councilors that believe that it's unfortunate we don't have the control that we should have.
Yeah. So, I mean, are we continuing? Okay. I mean, you know, the charter literally says the city council may amend the budget. That's the first sentence that it talks about when it gets to the budget. I believe the city council has some power to do that. Of course,
I can clarify if you want for the both of you. The city council has the power to cut the budget, and then the city council can recommend where the money they cut should go into the budget.
Correct. They cannot
go back to the mayor. You can't add to the budget, but the city council can cut the budget.
Right. So, yes, that is the interpretation we've been given. That relies on the word only being in the second sentence, which it isn't there. When we had the city solicitor talk about this, and we're getting into the weeds now, but he quoted not our own charter, but the model language in Mass General Law to explain this to us. So, any case, the more important question is, what do we actually do? It's clear to me that when it comes to priorities, our priority as encapsulated in the budget has been catching up on the unfunded liability in the pension fund to the expense of everything else. We've put an extra $6 million a year into the pension fund. We've made it to 100%, and we still put another $6 million in. And there was an initial plan to do that again this year that I believe they've dropped down to 2. So education is a competitive thing. The students of Leominster need to, when they graduate, go out and get a job. They need people to believe that they've had a good education. They have to have had a good education. They're going to be successful. The education we give them is crucial. The fact that we're the first city to catch up on our unfunded pension liability is quite an accomplishment, but I don't know that it helps any Leominster resident get a job.
I would say the track record of Leominster schools, although could improve, is very good. We have some incredible educators. We have some incredible administrators. They work for the children. Are there things we can do? Absolutely. We should have those athletic fields at the school. That was supposed to be built when the school was built. In a 1981 graduate, we were told it was going to happen that year. You know, so they do have to find some money in order to complete that and do it correctly. You know, you have to take the neighbors' concerns and they've grown up around the field not being there.
Right.
Any thoughts on Mr. Stassen's view of the funding of the pension liability?
You know, that's almost miraculous that that city has come to that. I think I have to look at it a lot closer. Now that it's done, I mean, it saves us how much money over the long run with bonds and borrowing and things like that. It's gonna enable us to do other projects, you know, to leave everyone with the impression that the schools aren't funded properly. I don't know if that's correct. Could it use more? Absolutely. I think CTE and I can definitely use a shot in the arm. It should be competitive, you know. You look at all the regional VOTECs and there's waiting lists to get in. We need to create that.
Right.
So I heard you talk about relooking at the funding for the city's pension liability as a way of finding some more money for the schools. Do you have any ideas of where money could be found in the budget? Would you recommend shifting any money around in the budget to get more to the schools?
Right now, I think the schools get the lion's share of the budget. We've been fortunate with the federal funds coming in. The schools have basically a windfall. I know it's spent on great things, needed catch up. I get that, but we also have a city to run. I don't think people are ready to pay cash for trash pickup. You know, get billed for different things the city needs to provide: police, fire, trash pickup, sanitation, DPW. You know, let's hope. You know, do we really want to increase taxes to do that? I mean, we have an aging population in Leominster. We have a lot of people on fixed incomes. To just keep raising and raising isn't the answer, you know?
I think, do you have anything else to add on this?
Well, just, you know, since he brought up taxes, I will just say I have not advocated doing anything different than what we've done tax-wise. We have done the maximum 2.5% for 22 years in a row. And I have not ever come out and said we should do more than that. I think it's really just a matter of the priorities of how we spend what we have. We could have put $4 million extra a year instead of $6 million extra a year in our pension, and we would still be in great shape, ahead of almost everybody else, but we'd have had a little extra money to invest in our schools.
Okay, so the next question leads into taxes, and that's what I'd like to address with both of you. Online shopping is continuing to put a big dent into brick and mortar retail stores. The implications for Leominster are substantial, and probably more so than many other cities and towns, as the city relies heavily on its retail base. The city has invested a lot of its zoning into retail over the past 30, 40 years. Yep. As stores continue to close, more and more of that property tax burden is going to be shifted to homeowners. That's inevitable. What should the city do about this? Mr. Brady.
This is an issue that's affecting a lot of communities in every state, let's face it. I'm gonna whittle this down to Ward 1, Leominster. We're a village unto ourselves. We're the only ward in the city that goes by North Leominster. Yes, there's a South and a West Leominster, but they're not referred to as that. There's a different mindset when you get north of the tracks. Does it necessarily affect Ward 1? No, because there's not that much retail in there. It's mostly residential, right? But we have to live in the city we're in. There was great news this morning, a $19 million private investment in a distribution center was backed up with a $2 million state grant, zero money from the city. That's going to be right up in Ward 1, right off the Target development, Orchard Hill Park. Bring 300 jobs, good paying jobs to that. The city's done a great job with the infrastructure of the schools and such. Can we improve? Absolutely, we can improve. What's going to go on with Searstown, Mall at Whitney Field?
It's always be Searstown. It's always going to be
right?
Searstown.
I've been here long enough to call it Searstown.
I've heard talk, it's in the planning stages, I'm sure, but they're going to be doing a mixed-use development now. Think about a 55 and over community residential that could walk the mall, put in, some small businesses, some startups, things like that. It's an exciting concept.
Mr. Stassen.
So I appreciate everything in Mr. Brady's answer. I think that was pretty good. Leominster has a lot going for it. We're at the junction of Route 2 and 190. We have access that not everybody in this portion of the state has. So, these developments we're talking about, we should be looking at ways to bring more in. The way it does affect us in Ward 1, I'm certainly right that we don't have that much retail where we are, but as you pointed out, the less taxes we get from retail, the more the tax burden shifts to the residential properties, which is us too. So, some way to grow us out of this is going to be needed.
Yeah, the one thing I would definitely stand against is a dual tax rate. That, it's a nightmare in other communities. They're trying to get rid of it. You'll chase business away. Wow. Being a private business owner for many years, I know what that can do. Yeah. When you're dealing with margins of pennies, another cup of coffee gets expensive after a while.
Mm-hmm. Any more thoughts on that? So talking about more revenue, many of Leominster's neighboring communities have embraced recreational marijuana retail stores as a new revenue stream into their communities. Leominster has taken the opposite approach and has implemented some of the most restrictive zoning regulations in the state. Do you think Leominster should revisit this zoning, or did they get it right? Mr. Stassen.
So in the vote on making that legal, Leominster itself was very split. I think we were narrowly like 51 to 49, 50 and a half to 49 and a half, which I think is exactly why we've ended up with restrictive zoning. We have half of us would like to allow it and half of us would like to not allow it. It's legal, there is some money to be made there, but people also have concerns. So I think any change that we would propose, you would really have to think about carefully and listen to. Any change in the zoning would, of course, either open up places that are not currently available. We would have to hear from those affected by that, what their concerns are.
Mr. Brady?
Right. With that, there may not be retail, but there is cultivation happening right now, right at the end of Lawrence Street, Mohawk Drive. It is legal. The federal government's going to have to catch up sooner or later. Right now, it's a great investment if you have a lot of cash to invest to people, right, because you can't go through the normal banking system with it. Right. There's also coming down the road, use facilities. Whereas right now they wrote in the law, if you have a liquor license, you cannot have a marijuana use in the same building. So is that going to mean we're going to get diners to have a use permit? You know, so it's zoning can get very complicated. Right. We're fortunate in Leominster that we've had people on zoning for years.
Yes.
They know the stories, but they also know some of the nightmares. So I think they're on the right tack here.
So you both agree on keeping the restrictive zoning for now?
I would never agree in those certain terms. Always willing to look at it in particular uses, but you know, everyone's going to say, I don't want that in my backyard.
Right.
You know, NIMBY it's factual. Do we turn Mall of Whitney Field into a you know, major retailer? Who knows?
Anything else on this?
Well, Mr. Brady is right. We have a zoning commission where they've studied this and are experts. I mean, I would be hesitant to tell them how to do their job without listening to them. So yes, I think we would, as he said, we would have to listen to what they say.
The City Council will be voting next week on the authorization of a bond to borrow over $20 million for the construction of a new police station.
Oh, praise heaven.
Okay. Should the council approve this authorization to borrow for this purpose?
Oh, sorry. Did I let my feelings out?
You let the cat out of the bag.
It's about time, is all I can say. This is Leominster, and I apologize to the police officers on the force. Your building is an embarrassment to the community. The men and women of our police are doing an incredible job. We need to, as a city, to show them the support, give them that new building, and take it a step further. You know, if they haven't built, if the design doesn't have a gym in there, get a gym in there. Let's make this a state-of-the-art facility that we can be proud of. I mean, Fitchburg, the amount of flack they took out of investing in their city hall. But you know what? It's the city. It's something to be proud of. We need to do that for our police.
No debate for me. Absolutely. We are way overdue to get a proper police building. As Mr. Brady said, the one we have now is an embarrassment. And I mean, it's kind of a miracle it's not condemned. So the police need a real building to work out of, and we shouldn't be cutting corners on it. That's probably how we got in the mess we're in the first place. So a proper building is needed.
Right, and you know, we have an incredible staff in City Hall that they generate grants like, you know, like turning on a faucet. You know, let people that are good at their jobs do their jobs. You know, and if I get on the City Council, police, fire, that spending needs to be brought up. We have to have a safe community.
Anything else?
No.
Our director, Robin Como, who's a Ward 1 voter, right back there, would like to know what either of you two will do about traffic in North Leominster. Staffing.
Yeah, that's the big question. It's hard to know what the answer is. I'm not a traffic engineer. I'm sure that we've talked to traffic engineers, and if they had an answer, they probably would have provided it to us already. We have a bottleneck with that railway bridge that makes life difficult. We have an airport we can't cut across, so there's no pressure relief by going sideways. I do think that where Hamilton and Nashua meet at Main Street, I think the lights there are timed in a way that causes problems at rush hour. And I know that they have adjusted those timings before, and it's gotten better, and then it seems to have gotten worse again. So I don't know if that's gotten out of whack. Best you can do there, though, is slight improvement. I mean, it's a big problem.
Well, for one thing, coming up Main Street, that's Mass Department of Transportation. The city can't touch it. Right. They have studied it. They're changing all the way down. Their biggest concern, from what I understand, going to some of the meetings and whatnot, was the backup onto Route 2. So now you go all the way back down, right, by the car dealership, the gas stations. So now they're constructing this. It's all under construction right now. Part of the construction, they ripped up the timers, the sensors in the road. So now they're all on timers, literal timers. That's where the major backup's coming from, because they make no sense, and people know that. We don't have the manpower to put out police directing traffic every day. Right now, it's messed up. We were speaking about this earlier. Since 1969, I grew up on Prospect Street. I live on Harvard Street now. I know the problem. We've tried to fix it. We've made River Street one way, Hamilton Street one way. That's probably going to happen again. The engineers are on it. There's no easy solution. My biggest concern, I've informally asked this of some firemen and things like that, is if there is ever, God forbid, an emergency at Johnny Appleseed School and 2 trucks simultaneously come stuck under that bridge, we're going to be counting on Fitchburg as first responders for us.
Right.
We need to, you use the term pressure relief valve, we need an emergency access somehow.
Yep.
So remember, we joke about this, sorry Dean, but it's going to come up. Yeah, if you vote me for mayor, you'd be home by now. We're going to hold you to that one of these times. I think it's coming up on the 30th anniversary.
The big sign up there in the corner.
Right.
Yep.
Anything else to add on the traffic?
No, I think that's a
We're,
big problem.
I'm very accessible. Please give me some ideas. I'll run it by a lot of people.
Do you believe that Leominster city government as a whole is steering us in the right direction, or do we need to change course? I know that's a loaded question, but I'm putting it on both of you.
So, depends on which part of city government we're talking about, I guess. It's no secret that I have disagreed with the mayor on school funding, as we've talked about before. I think it should be a higher priority than he does. City council, I believe, I have a general feeling that they've steered less than they should have. I think they have more of a role to play than they always do. More questions should be asked. More answers should be required. Right now we have, each city council meeting we get a finance report, and the finance report is we are told the balance in the stabilization fund. That's not the entirety of city finances, that's one small piece. The charter requires the city to give a full accounting of all the line items in the budget and how much has been spent so far monthly. And they have not gotten that for years, and kind of acquiesced to that. I think it's important that city councilors, for example, when they get an appropriation request from the stabilization fund to pay for something that we didn't put in the budget, the first question should be, are we sure there's not money in the budget that can be transferred from one line to another to take care of that? Why are we taking it out of stabilization? And we don't know the answer to that without an actual financial report of where we are. You know, on the school committee, I get one of those every month. It gives me every line item, how much we've spent so far, how much is left. So if we need more money for a particular item, I can look and see, and we can all look and see whether there's money available to move without having to go ask for more funding.
Mr. Brayton?
It's true. The accounting in City Hall, with the hiring of the new comptroller, I think we'll get out of 1980 and we'll actually come up. I think you're absolutely right. The councilors deserve that type of information. We have a strong mayor form of government. That's what it is. But he's a mayor, not an emperor.
Right.
So, you know, I think the city's heading in the right way. I like how the city is. It's been business friendly. It's been residential friendly. I mean, just downtown is vibrant. I think it's the lowest vacancy rate in 50 years. You can just see the excitement in people's faces. I'm down there every day. Yeah. And it's a happy town. There's not a lot of grumbling. Do we have problems? Absolutely. We have serious, serious problems, but together I think we can address them. Our public safety is committed. The men and women of the fire department, the police department, emergency management, I mean, they all believe in the city. I think we can get where we're going. I cannot argue with you with a little more accountability when it comes to finances. We had a very loyal and strong comptroller for years and years, set in the way. You have an administration that's been there 30 years. He's been there since before the internet. He's catching up too, I think, with the addition of the new comptroller. I think things will get computerized. One thing, we have some money coming in from the federal government for COVID. I think you have to address the concerns of the health department. They're still filling out forms in triplicate. I know. I'm the receiver of that, and we need to get them computers.
So we did the first question went to Mr. Stassen, so let's start. What's the closing statements? We'll start with Mr. Brady, up to 2 minutes for a closing statement.
Closing statement. Why did I want to run for city council? I know that everyone's asking me the same question. I actually called Steve DiNatale one time over. A couple weeks ago, we had an incident at the airport with loud music and whatnot, so I just called him and I said, I don't know if you know, but I'm running for Ward 1 City Council. He says, hold on, I'm going to give you my psychiatrist number. I'm a lifelong city resident. I grew up in Ward 1, went to school in the Pierce Street School before it closed. I love the area. I love the city. I felt it's time to give back. I'm going to be very accessible. People know where to find me, how to get in touch with me. And hopefully I can be your voice or your conduit to deal with the city. Sometimes if you're not familiar with who the players are and what departments to go to, it gets a little, you can get intimidated. I want to take that out and show you the people that we have working for the city and how they care about it.
Thank you. Mr. Stassen.
Thank you. So I cannot claim to be a lifelong Leominster resident. I did not move here long enough ago to have gone to school here myself. All of my children have gone to school here. My 3 oldest have graduated. My youngest is still at Skyview Middle School. Between them, they've gone to every school in the city. I love Leominster. We chose Leominster when we moved here, and I agree. I think on the whole, we're going in the right direction. I have served on the school committee for the last 4 years. I've learned a lot about financial responsibility and accountability and what sort of information we should have. I too am hopeful that the new comptroller is improving the situation. I believe City Council is finally getting the financial reports they're supposed to get, but we still haven't seen them. So I'm hoping to get on the City Council and really push to get that oversight and accountability. So I'm asking that you vote for me. Thank you.
And that concludes this debate for the candidates for Ward 1 City Council in the city of Leominster. Michael Stassen, Bill Brady, thank you so much for participating in this debate. Now, the choice is up to you, the voters of Ward 1. The election is November 2nd. You can go vote in person, or you can go right to the city's website and request a mail-in ballot. Thank you, and good night.